Hello, my name is Kiriath, and today we're just going to have a little chat about painting motivation, specifically the issue of looking at other people's really well painted models and deciding, I can't do that. I will never be able to do that. Because we're getting fair way into the current stay-at-home situation, and I've actually had a few messages now to essentially how to deal with the demotivation that can sometimes happen from looking at other people's work. See, in an ideal world, what you would do is you would look at someone else's model, you would look at something that's been painted incredibly well and go, yes, excellent, I want to be able to do that. That's not always how it works, though. External factors can do a lot to change how you view stuff, and if you are, as I am, naturally inclined towards the more pessimistic side of things, then it's quite easy to look at other people's good work and instead of using it as inspiration or using it as a guide or a motivator, to find that you are essentially pushed towards not wanting to paint. Instead of going, that's awesome, I would like to be able to do that, it becomes, that's better than anything I will ever achieve, there is no point me trying. And it's an extreme thing, but it can affect people a lot. And if the last kind of couple of days where I've had a sort of strangely timed influx of questions about it is anything to go by, I'd imagine there are a lot of people at the moment who have external factors at play that are currently finding that the motivation just isn't there, and previous methods perhaps of looking at other people's work, instead of making things better, is making things worse. And I have to admit, I know exactly where those sentiments are coming from, because I used to have that exact problem. I would look at other people's models, I would look at other people's painting, and I would just see something that I would never be capable of. And it had a genuine impact on how much I enjoyed painting and how much I wanted to improve my painting. It was in a strange situation where I want to do better, I want to paint better than I do, but at the same time, there's no point. There's no point putting the effort in, because I'm never going to be able to match that. And there's a few things wrong with that line of thinking, just in general, just in terms of keeping your head clear for a start. The first thing, of course, is that it doesn't matter if you compete with or match that. That's the first thing to try and adjust thinking over. Unless you're entering a painting competition going up directly against this person, what that person does, in a way, is irrelevant. You can use their model as inspiration, you can use it to identify areas that you would like to work on. For instance, if you see an amazing model that's got just insanely good skin, for instance, and you know that painting skin is something you are not good at, I'll raise my hand to that, I'm awful at painting skin. Instead of looking at that and going, well, no skin I ever paint will be able to stand up to that, it doesn't matter whether it needs to stand up to that or not. No one is asking it to. The only person who is drawing that comparison is you, and you don't need to compare the two anyway. The important thing is getting a finish that you're happy with. Now, if you are currently at a state where you're not happy with the skin you're painting, and you can see that someone else does it better, don't view it as a competition. Don't view it as, well, it has to be better than that. It has to be at least as good at or better than that. Because when you start improving, when you start looking up tutorials, when you start asking people for advice, when you, for instance, set a challenge. I've seen people on Twitter do the 1 head a day challenge. They want to get better at painting faces, at painting heads, and so they paint a head every single day. The rate at which I've seen people improve doing that is incredible. And it makes sense, because the more you practice something, the better you're going to get. Now, you may well get to a point where you've been painting his skin non-stop for 2 weeks. That's all you've done. All the models that have got skin, you've been trying it and trying it and trying it. And there will come a point where you will look at it and be satisfied. You'll be happy with what you've painted. And that's the important thing. That's the main thing to focus on. Not the comparison to someone else's work, because that doesn't matter. The important thing is getting pride out of your work, not making yourself unhappy or finding ways not to be proud by comparing it to other people's. I mean, if you, say, have a full-time job, you have commitments that mean you can't paint for 5 hours a day, Why would you compare yourself to someone whose entire job is painting, who sits down for 8 hours a day for their job, commission painting, and then, as a way to relax, paints their own models? Why would you compare yourself to that? They're not in the same position as you. They're not doing the same thing as you. They're probably not tackling the same models as you. Instead, you need to look at what makes you happy about your painting. And if you identify something that you're not happy with, don't work to the standard of someone who is doing, for instance, Golden Demon or like Iron Skull competition painting. Look at what you've done in the past. Look at your improvement. And there will come a point where you will look at what you've done now compared to what you did before, and you will be happy. And you can be proud of what you have achieved without having to directly compare to other people. You only need to compare to yourself, and as long as you're happy with what you've done, that's the bit that matters, nothing else. In a similar vein, it's a case of when you're looking at other people's models, when you're looking at other people's paint jobs, and you have that moment of, well, I can't do that. You may be right. At that moment, you might not be able to do that, but you need to make sure that you always remember to put a word on the end of the I can't do that statement, which is I can't do that yet. If you see a model that has got some sort of crazy, non-metallic metal colour scheme, and you've never tried to paint non-metallic metal, then the statement of I can't do that, it's only accurate in that moment, because if you want to go away and learn it, you can. That's what you should use that for. Don't look at models as yardsticks against which to compare your own work. Look at them as sources of inspiration for what you want to learn, for what you want to build towards. If you find someone, I mean, there's someone on Twitter /Patreon called Flame on Miniatures who does the most insane non-metallic metal stuff. Now, right now, I know that I can't do what they can do. But I also know that they've been doing that for a long time, and that if I sat down and learned how to do it, at some point, even if I didn't get as crisp as them, I know there is a point at which I would go, you know what, that looks good and I'm happy with it. You need to use it not as a way to demotivate, but to motivate. Don't look at it as a source of, reasons not to learn. Look at it as a source of inspiration for what you personally can achieve. I mean, that's one of the things that has made me so happy about the Emperor's Children stuff I'm doing at the moment. That project has caused me so much grief for so long because I just couldn't work out how to paint them. I wasn't happy with how I was painting them. I wasn't happy with how I was approaching it. I didn't know what I wanted to do with them at the end of the day. I thought I knew, then I changed my mind, then I tried another technique and that didn't work either. And so I pretty much gave up. I was just going to have them all commission painted instead. But then I found a technique that worked and worked well and something that I enjoyed, and now I have this completed model, and I'm a good way through completing that model, and it's using a technique and colours that I would never have used before. And the reason I tried it is because I looked at what other people were doing, and I looked at the way other people were painting things, and instead of saying just, well, I can't do that, I changed it to, well, I can't do that yet. Give it a couple of weeks. If I keep messing with it, if I keep trying it, if I find a way that works, I might be able to manage that. That's the way to approach it if you can. And again, it requires a retune of the way you think, but it's worth doing and it's worth focusing on, it's worth trying. At the end of the day, you've got to look at what makes you happy and what makes you proud. Unless you're going into competition painting, in which case you will already have a different mindset to what we're talking about today. The important thing is not what other people do. It is not how other people paint. It is not the way that other people find inspiration. It's all about how you do all of those things. And the only person you need to compare yourself to is yourself. If you paint a model and you are super happy with it and you put it next to, say, the first model you ever painted and you cannot believe the difference, that is more important than putting it next to someone else's model and going, oh, well, is it as good as that? Because it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter in the slightest. It's all about taking pride in what you do compared to what you used to be able to do, if that is your aim, or just taking pride in what you can achieve right now. You don't have to be as good as a pro. You don't have to have the years of experience of someone who has won 8 golden demons or whatever. You just need to look at your work, and if you're happy with it, then that's the most positive thing that you can possibly get. And if you're not happy with it, then don't look at other people's models as an excuse to not try harder. Look at what you're unhappy with, and then work on those areas. God knows we live in a golden age, frankly, of painting tutorials and advice, and there are so many great people doing easily accessible, well-edited, well-thought-out work that if there's any aspect of painting that you are not happy with right now, you can go and learn how to do that within the week. You might need to build up in terms of experience, you might need to do it a few times, you may need to set aside your hobby time for the next 2-3 weeks and just paint one certain thing over and over again. But you will be able to achieve it, because it's not a case of, I can't do that, it is just a case of, I can't do that yet. But you will. You absolutely will. And then as long as you're proud with the end result, that's all the success you need. That is all the success you need, and that's what you need to focus on. So yeah, that's got a bit rambly and a bit long, but I hope that has been helpful to those of you who've sent me messages over the last couple of days. That's sort of the way I've started approaching everything now, and I mean, it seems to be working, because I'm painting a shed load more and trying things that I would never have tried before, and I mean, yeah, I just even things like that ridiculous orc. I know the fire's the wrong way around. I like it like that. I just thought I'd throw that in there. That's the other thing as well. Sometimes you'll do something and you'll think, that's not accurate, but I like the way it looks. Stick with that. Again, it's what makes you happy. That's the important bit. So yeah, I hope that has been in some way helpful. Thank you very much for watching. If you've got any techniques for kind of overcoming that kind of mindset, if it's something that you've struggled with but found a way around it, if you found some sort of practice or solution to getting demotivated looking at other people's work, then do share that in the comments down below. In the meantime, feel free to click all the things. You know what all of that is. And there's of course, the affiliate link for Element Games in the description, which you can use to support the channel. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.